In today's video, I want to show you how to make this simple machine learning web app using Django in Python. So on this web app, on the left side, we are going to have this image of the Titanic sinking. On the right side, we are going to have another image from the movie Titanic. Then on top here, the website is going to say predict survival on the Titanic. Then in between here, we have user input where the user can put their P class. Let's say, for example, 1, say, for example, 3, their sex, 1 if female, or 1 if male, 0 if female. So it's a male, say 1. Age, let's say it's 25. Number of siblings, say 0. Number of parents or children, 0. The payer, they pay, let's say they paid something like $8 or whatever. We say predict, and then the prediction model is going to say you did not survive. If they survive, then it's going to say you survive. Okay, so how do we do this? To get started, I personally chose to use Anaconda. In this way, it's very easy to make virtual environments. So I'm inside my virtual environment right now. It's here. It's called Django. So if you want to create your own virtual environment, all you have to do is click on environments, create, give it a name, whatever you want to name it, and then choose the Python version you want to use. I'm going to use Python 3.8.13 and then do create. So create a virtual environment for us. I'm not going to do that because I already have my virtual environment created. So I'm going to cancel this. So once you have your virtual environment created, you go back to home, and then on this tab right here, you can choose whether you want to be in your best road or in your virtual environment. I'm going to be working inside my virtual environment that's called Django, this one right here. And then here we can see that we can choose which ID you want to use. I'm going to use Spider. It's already installed for me, so all I have to do is launch it. If it's not installed for you, it's going to have an install button here where you can just click install, then it's going to get installed on your Anaconda navigator. Also, the command prompt doesn't come installed in virtual environment, so you're going to have to install this command prompt as well. So for now, I'm going to install all the packages that I'm going to need in this project. So to do that, I'm going to have to use this command prompt. I'm just going to click here. And then I'm going to have to go to, I'm going to search for conda install Django. Conda install Django, and then we're going to go to anaconda.org to see how to install Django. So right here, we're going to grab this text, copy it, go back to a command prompt and paste it there. I want to leave a space and also install pandas and also install numpy space. We're going to install TensorFlow. Paste, we're also going to install what else? We're going to install SK like that. We hit enter, and then this is going to install all the packages that we've written here. For me, all these things are already installed, so I don't need to do this, so I'm just gonna cancel it. So all the packages that I need are already installed on this machine, so now I can just go back to the command prompt, and then we're going to cd into the folder where we're going to make this project. So for me, I already have a folder called Django right here. So I'm going to go inside this folder. There's nothing inside. So I'm going to click and make another folder. I'm going to call this one Titanic, like that. And then I'm going to copy the address of this folder, then go back to the command prompt, and then I'm going to cd into that folder. So we're going to cd, we didn't copy it. Copy address, cd, copy and paste, like that. And so in this folder, this is where we want our project to be. To make our project, what we have to do is say Django. By the way, I've already installed Django, like I showed you before. So we have to do Django admin start project. We're going to call this one, let's just call it Titanic Survival. And then done. So if we go back to our folder, now we are here. Logodixie, Django, Titanic. Now you see that it has created this folder for us, Titanic Survival. So we go inside, now we got all these files that we can use. We got the manage.py. Inside this file, there's another folder that's called Titanic Survival. Inside this folder, we have all these files that we're going to use. So now let's go back to our IDE. Let's launch Spider and then open and see what's inside those files. Over here, we're going to say file open. We are going to go to, we are in lowercase c, Django Titanic Survival, and then the Titanic Survival. We are going to open first of all the settings file. Let's also open the other files. Let's open the urls.py file. We open this file. Okay, and now let's go back to that folder. In this folder, we got one file that is missing, which is the viewers file. So let's just create that file. So to do that, we go here, we say file. Let's open a new file, and let's save this file. Save us. So we're gonna save it right here in the same directory as the other files. So we're gonna call this one. It's gonna be we're gonna call this one a Python file. So it's going to be called views.py. So just say the name is views. So we save it like that. So now we got a file that's called views.py. To confirm, we go back to our directory. We got the file is right here. In this views file, this is where we are going to write all the logic that's going to take place in our app. So I'm just going to put it here, and then I'm going to go back to the settings.py file. And then in the settings file, I'm going to say from pathly import path. Also, we are also going to import OS. I'm going to show you why we are importing OS, because we're going to use this later on down here. This main folder, I'm going to copy and paste one file. This is the Titanic, this is the infamous Titanic CSV file that we're going to be using. So don't worry, I'm going to post all this data in my GitHub repository so that you can use the same data if you want to use the exact data. So let's just open and see what it looks like. So it's this one. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 columns. Now within this folder, we are going to make another folder. We're going to call this one templates. Then we are going to make another folder. We are going to call this one static. In this templates folder, this is where we are going to make all the HTML files that we're going to use in our project. So to make an HTML file, I'm just going to use my text editor. I'm going to open it, do save as all files. Let's call this one. We're going to have two HTML files. The first one is going to be the main.html, like that. We are going to make another one. We're going to call this one index.html. Index.html. Okay. So to be able to save this as an HTML file, you have to click type here as all files, and then just put index.html file like that. This will save this file as an HTML file. We save it. Okay. So now we can delete this one, or we can just cut it, go back to the main folder, go into the static, paste it there, and we're going to use this to create another file, a CSV file. So we're going to open it, do save as, and then we're going to call this one main.css. We're going to save this one as all files as well, and then do save. This templates folder has got all the HTML files that we need to make this project. And to in order for our settings file to be able to know where these files are, we need to define them. So we go we go to our editor. We in the settings file. So we're in the settings files, and then we find this line. We find this part which says templates, and then in here where it says directories, we're going to say templates. Oh, like that. So it's going to go to our main folder and then search another folder that is called templates, and that is where it's going to find all the HTML files. Okay. And then for the static files, now we also need to be able to tell our project, we'll define the static files. And the way we do that is we define it down here. So we already have our static URL defined right here, static. So inside the static folder, I'm going to make another folder. I'm going to call this one images. Images. This is where we are going to have all the images that will be shown on our web app. I already got these images from somewhere else, so I'm just going to paste them here. Don't worry, I'm also going to post these images in my GitHub repository so that you can use them if you want to use the exact images. Then we go back to the static folder. Let's just make another folder here. Let me call this one CSS, like that. And then I'm going to copy these CS files. I'm going to cut them and put them inside there. Okay. So now we got Titanic Survival, the templates folder. We got the HTML files that we want to use. And then in the static folder, we got the CSS files and the images that we want to use. So now we have to define them in our settings file. So we've already defined the HTML files. Also define the static files. To define where the static files are, we do so we have to define it like this. So in capital letters, we say static files underscore directories. So in here, this is where we are going to define the directories where the static files are. So we say os.path.join best directory and the static folder. Okay. What this is doing is just telling Django where our static files are, and it's joining the best directory to this static directory. So the static URL is defined here. This best directory right here, we don't need to define it. It's already defined for us. If we go up here, it's over there. So we don't need to define it. Django already defines this for us. And then the static here is the static folder that we have right here. Before we close it, let's just say save it and then close it. In the views.py file, this is where we are going to define the logic behind our project. So to get started, we are first going to import all the packages and the modules that we'll be using. So I'm just going to copy and paste them. So first of all, we're importing from Django.shortcuts, we're importing render, and then from Django.http, we're importing JSON response. I don't know if we're going to use this, maybe not. So let's just leave it. We also maybe do not need to import JSON. Let's remove that. Then we're going to import TensorFlow as TF. Then from TensorFlow, import Keras. From TensorFlow.keras.models, import model. And then from I don't think we need this, so we're going to remove this as well. We are going to import pandas as PD, NumPy as NP, and then from skr.model selection, import train, test, and split. And then down here, we're going to define our home view. This is the view that is going to be shown on the main page. So we're going to say home view. Then we define it here by saying, let's just call this one home. For now, let's just do return render request dot and then render that HTML file that we created, the index.html file that we created. So just going to say render return render. Yeah, so we're just going to return render request, and then it's going to render that HTML file that we created. And now that we've created this view inside the views.py file, we also need to tell our urls.py file to add that view to our path. So the way we do that, I'm just going to say path, nothing in there. Then we are going to say views.home. We are going to give it a name of, let's just call this one home. And you can see that here it's showing that we get an error because that is because there's nowhere to find this views.home. In order to avoid this error, all we have to do is say from Titanic Survival, import views. So we're just importing this views.py file right here with this line. And inside this views.py file, it's going to find this view that is called home, and it's the one that we defined down here. Okay, now let's go to our HTML file and write some logic there. So inside the templates folder, we got our HTML files. I'm going to open that templates folder. I'm going to go to the main.html. So I've already written a few lines of code in the main.html file. We are just, the first line, we're just loading the static files. So this is a scripting tag. When you say, when you write something like this and like that, and you put something in between there, this is a scripting tag. So all what this is doing is just it's loading the static files. And the static files that we have in here. Okay. And then in the head of the HTML, we're just going to give it a title of Titanic. And then we're also we're also going to add a link to a style sheet that is the Bootstrap. We are going to be using Bootstrap 4.4.1. This is just a styling sheet, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to use it later on. And we're going to add another link, which is also a style sheet type, which is a CSS file. And then we're going to find this by saying href. We use another scripting tag, and we go to the static folder and CSS, and then we go main.css. So this line is just going to go into the main folder, static folder, CSS, then it's going to find this file right here. That is what we're doing. Okay. And then we close the head, and inside the body, I'm just gonna make a div. I'm gonna call a div. Let's just call this one. Let's give this one a class of container. Let's give this one a class of container. Close it like that. And in between here, let's just say, let's use another scripting tag. Say block content. Another scripting tag and say end block content, like that. So what this div is doing is it's just we're giving the class of container, which means just going to contain everything into one space. That's all that is doing. And then we can close this main.html. Let's save it. Let's go to the index.html. I've also already written a few lines of code in here. So the first line, I'm just saying it inherits from the main.html. So you do that by using a scripting tag and say extends, which means it inherits everything that is defined in main.html. And then it also loads the static files, and then you can say block content, and then end the block content down there. And then in the head, we're going to leave it nothing there. And then in the body, this is where we're going to define everything. I'm first going to make a div. I'm going to call this one div and give it a class. We're going to give it a class of row mb-3. Then inside this div, we are going to have everything else. So inside this div, again, I'm going to make another div. We're going to have another div, and we're going to give this one a class. all these classes, by the way, they are using Bootstrap. For those of you who don't know, you can just go to Google and search Bootstrap and see how what these classes are doing. For example, let me just go to Bootstrap. Say Bootstrap 4 introduction, and I can go to examples. So you can go to grid layout to see all the all the kinds of grids that you can make. So for example, this one that we're using right here, we're using column MD-4 is this one right here. So we're going to have 3 columns in our web app. On the left side, it's going to have one column that is going to have an image. In between, it's going to have user input. On the right side, it's going to have another image. So that is what we're doing here. 3 divs that are going to be like this. So 1, 2, 3, 3 divs of equal columns. So I'm going to have, this is the first one. I'm going to copy it, paste it one more time, and then paste it again one more time. So inside here, well, we're going to have the first image, and to define where that image is, we're going to use another we're going to use an image tag, and we say source of this image tag, we're going to use another scripting tag. So what the scripting tag is doing is making an image tag, and then in the source of the image is going to be in the static folder. The static folder, we're going to go into images and find this image that is called titanic.jpg. So we go to our folder, it's a static folder, images, then we're going to find this image right here. Now we can do the same for the other image. All we have to do is copy this line and paste it in the div below there. And all these 2 images are going to have a class of image. I'm going to show you how we're going to use this class later on to define how the images are going to show up on our web app. Okay, so we have an so we got the image here, we got an image here. Now we're going to need to put the user input in between. Okay, so it's this one right here. So in here, this we are going to define the user input. We are going to have a form because the user is going to use a form to input the data. So we're going to use a form tag of class is equal to form horizontal action. We're going to leave it nothing for now. Then the method is going to be post. So we're going to be using this form to get data from the user and then post it somewhere. Inside this form tag, we are going to use another script tag to define a CRSF token. So a script tag that's going to define a CRSF token, we say CRSF. Token like that. So what this CRSF token is doing is that it just makes data handling to be more secure in Django. And what this CRSF means, what it stands for is cross-site scripting forgery token. So it just makes data handling to be more secure in Django. So now we can close this form tag down here like that. So we go back inside. This is where we go define the user input. Define the first user input, which is going to be the P class of the user. We're going to say, let's just use another div. I'm using so many divs just to make sure it puts everything in together properly, so we can see which part is which part. So I'm just gonna call this div. I'm gonna call this one class is going to be form group. Close that div, and in between that form group div, we are going to make a label. Class of this label is going to be equal to column sm.2, and then control label. And then this label is going to be called P class. So it's gonna have a name written on there saying P class. And we close the label tag like that. Below that label tag, we are going to have the input, the user input. So it's a input tag, and then type. We want the user to be able to input type of text. So the user is going to input text type data in there. The class is going to be equal to form control. Name, let's just give this one a name of P class. And I'm going to show you later on how we're going to reference to this name later on. So all these classes that I'm using here, all these things, they're all bootstrap. So if we go to bootstrap.forms, and then we can go to horizontal form, and you can see this is the horizontal form that we're doing. For example, this class form horizontal is just going to help us make a horizontal form. So I'm not going to go too much into details about that, because that's going to be a whole long video. So you can just search Bootstrap on how to make forms using Bootstrap. So down here, we've made this div class of a form group, and it's over. And you now have a label over that is named P class, and the user input, where the user is going to import a text type data. So I'm just going to copy this one, paste it a few more times. So here we got P class. Here, let's change the name. Let's call this one sex. Then the name is going to be sex. Oh, we made a mistake here. Let's just make sure we are consistent like that. So sex. This one is going to be, so we got P class, I got sex, we got age. I'm gonna copy it again. So I'm gonna copy it again and paste it a few more times. This one is age. So we got P class, sex. This one is going to be supposed to be age. Made a mistake right there. And then this one is supposed to say, let's just call this one number of, let's say which one comes first. Number of siblings or spouses. Is going to be number of siblings, spouses, like that. This one is going to say number of parents or children. The name is going to be number of parents or children, like that. And then the last one is going to say fair. So the name is going to be fair, like that. Down here below the form tag, just within the same div, we are going to make another h1. Let's make it h1. Let's call this one prediction. H1 that is going to say prediction. You close an h tag like that, not the other way around. So you close it like that. And below that h1, that's called prediction. We are going to use a scripting tag. like that, and say result. This is where we are going to put the result of the prediction. So I want to show you again how we're going to use this right here. And what else can we do? So within, let's go back into within that form class, just below the form group. Let's put another user input. This is going to have the button. So an input tag. This is going to have a button. So we are going to give it a class, which is going to be equal to btn outline. Yeah. The type is going to be equal to submit. Let's give it a name of, let's call this one prediction. Then the value that's going to show on that button is going to be predict, like that. Okay, so this is pretty much done for our HTML file. Let me see, did we leave something? Okay, just up here before the div, let's just above here, let's give it another h1 tag, which is going to be the title of that's going to show on top of our web app. So this one is going to be h1 tag, and it's going to say predict survival on the Titanic. Close the h1 tag like that. Okay, this is pretty much it. Let's close and save it. Now, let's see what our web app looks like. To do that, we are going to go back to our command prompt. Here, we are inside the folder. We say Python manage.py run server. So to run the server, all you have to do is say Python manage.py run server, like that. We hit enter. And then we're having a trouble. It says Python can't open manage.py. And what could be the problem? Can't open no such file or directory. That is probably because we're in the wrong directory. So we go back here, see inside Titanic survival, and manage.py is right here. So we copy that directory. We cd in there. And now we can say Python manage.py run server. So this is not an error. It's just showing that we got you have 18 unapplied migrations. So to run Python manage.py migrate to apply them. Okay, we're gonna do that later. Let's just look let's just look at the web app and see what it looks like right now. So I'm gonna copy this link. I'm gonna go to my browser. I'm gonna paste it there. So our web app is here, and we're not seeing the HTML files being rendered, and that is because maybe you haven't applied our migrations yet. Let's apply the migration and see what it looks like. So we're still inside this folder. So to make migrations, we're going to let me go to Google and find the documentation from Django itself. So we're gonna have to run this Python manage.py make migrations. I'm gonna copy that line, paste it there. No changes detected, and then let's go down there. Let's just run this to be sure. Then now it makes migrations and then says everything is okay. So now let's run the server again, see if it works properly. Let me just reload it, see if it works. So our project is not rendering the HTML file. So what could be wrong? Let's see. Okay, right here. Okay, let's maybe we need to save these files. Let's save them. Let's go back here to the URL file. This one is saved. This one is saved. This one is saved as well. And okay, let's rerun it and see what it looks like. So it seems we got an error somewhere in the HTML file. So where is that? Here we get an CRSF token, unexpected end block tag. Oh, let's see what could be wrong. Oh, it seems that we've misspelled this. This is supposed to be a cross-site reference forgery token. So it's cross-site CSRF. So yeah, we misspelled that. So let's save it. Let's go back and let's rerun it. And we still got another error here. Unclosed tag on block 4. Block. We go back to our index file. And that is because we opened the block on it here, but we didn't close it. So we copy that, we close it down there. So we forgot to close it like that. We save it, we rerun it and see what it looks like. Now everything works. See, we got the title here says predict survival on the Titanic. On the left side, we got an image, and then in between, we got user input, and here we got the image from Titanic the movie. So let's see what we're going to do next. Let's just write down the logic that's going to get the data from the user, and then you make a prediction down here. So let's go and do that. But before we do that, let's see here, see sex here. So sex here, let's put a placeholder. Let's give the user a hint. Let's say 1 if male and 0 if female. So let's go to the HTML file. Where's sex here? I'm just gonna add the one say placeholder, and then it's gonna say 1 if male, 0 if female. Let's close that, and let's run it. And now it says 1 if male, 0 if female. So now let's go back to our editor and make the logic on how we're going to make this prediction. I'm first of all going to define the model up here. So I'm just going to copy and paste. This is the exact same model that we used in my previous video on our Streamlit. So I'm just going to explain a little bit on what it is doing. So we are going, we are predicting, so we are going into that folder and finding the Titanic.csv file. So in our working folder, the main folder, we got this file, Titanic file. Let's open it and see what it looks like. So you see it's got all these rows and columns. And then we are going to drop the name column because the name of the person is redundant. It adds no value. It does not help us predict whether somebody survived or not. And then we are going to encode the sex column by doing these 2 lines. So males are going to be 1s and then females are going to be 0s. And then we are going to split the data into X and Y variables. The X variable is going to be everything apart from the survived column. So we go to the CSV file. The survived column is going to be the Y, and everything else is going to be X. So this is what we are doing here with this line, and with this line right here. And then with this line right here, we are assigning the survived column to be Y. And we are also changing the values using NP. So we are changing the value of this data type here to be np.float32. We are also changing the value type of the X values like that. And then the next type, we define the X trend, X validation, Y trend, and Y validation by saying trend test split XY test size 0.2, random state is going to be equal to 1. And down here, we create this Keras sequential model. First of all, we use a flatten layer. Also, we are going to flatten the input layer. The input is going to be to have an input shape of 6. So why 6? So if we go here, we're going to see that X has got 6 columns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But we drop the name column, so that only leaves us with 6 columns. So that is why we get this input shape of 6. And then we're going to have a dense layer that is going to have 6 nodes with an activation of Reru, another one, which is going to have 4 nodes, and then 2 nodes, and then the last node with an activation of sigmoid. And then we are going to compile the model by saying model.compile optimizer. We're going to use Adam. The loss, let's just use binary cross entropy, because this is only going to predict whether somebody survived or not. So there's only 2 outcomes. So that's why we're using the binary cross entropy. And the metrics are going to be accuracy. we fit the model by saying history is equal to model.feed x trend, y trend. Let's just run it for a number of epochs, 120, and batch size 1 validation data is going to be equal to the x validation, y validation that we define right here. Okay, now how do we use this model to actually get data from the user from here and then make a prediction down there? So we're going to write that logic down here in the home view. So the logic we're going to be using here is very simple. We are just going to be grabbing all the data from there. So let's first grab this one. So to grab that data from the user input, we say, let's call this one P class is going to be equal to request.post.get P class. Okay, just like that. So this is simple and straightforward. Well, what it's doing is that it's going to that user input and it's getting this user input right here, which is called P class. If we go to our HTML class, you can see that we gave that one a name of P class. So this P class right here is the one that we are referring to right here. So now we need this data because here we say the input type is text. Let's change this to be able, let's change this to integer so that the module will be able to interpret it. So we are going to change the data type into integer like that. And then we are going to copy and paste it. Let's paste it again. Maybe let's paste it one more time. So we are going to change this one is going to be age. And we are getting age. Let me see. So oh, the second one is actually sex. So okay, so this second one is supposed to be sex. So this is sex. This one is age. This one is going to be number of siblings or spouses. So number of siblings or spouses. Is that the name we give it? Uh, let's see. We go here. Sex. We get sex, age, and number. Okay, so I'm just gonna copy this one just to be sure. This one is going to be number of parents or children. Let's give it another score like that. Number of parents or children. Let's also check this one, see if it's right. So yeah, we gave it a number. Just to be sure again, let's copy and paste it there. And then the last one is going to be equal to the fare that the user paid. So now let's define another variable. Let's call this one data. Data is just going to be equal to an array of all this data that we created on top there. So it's going to be a two-dimensional array of P class, sex, age, number of siblings, spouses, number of parents, children, like that, and the fare. Now that we have this data inside a two-dimensional array, we can actually feed it directly. We can actually feed this data into the model. But before we do that, let's just change the data to be equal to a tensor. So we do that by saying data is equal to tf dot constant. So we are making this data a tensor. Now we can feed the data into the model. Yeah. By the tf is short for TensorFlow, so we import it here. Import TensorFlow as tf. Now we can say prediction is equal to model dot predict. We are going to predict the data in steps 1. Then we are going to round off the prediction by saying, let's just call this one prediction, short for prediction, which is equal to, let's say, round x in prediction. So this prediction for the model is going to return a value between 0 and 1. So we need to be able to round it off to 0 if it's closer to 0, or round it off to 1 if it's closer to 1. So this is what we're doing with this line right here. And here we can say, and then here we can say if pred is equal to 0, it means they survived. It means they did not survive. So we are going to say result is equal to you did not survive, like that. We say elif prediction is equal to 1, result is going to be equal to you survived. Else, let's just return an error. Or else, result is going to be equal to an error. Now, to actually be able to render this result down here, all we have to do is we say return render request index.html, and then we use that scripting tag. We say result is equal to result. So this result right here is the one we are getting right here from the model. Okay, and then this result that we are referring to right here is the one that we defined in the index.html file. So if you go back, you can see that we got the scripting tag here, we got the value that's called result. So we get the value here and post it in the HTML tag over there. So let's close it. Let's save this one. And let's go to our main folder, static folder in the CSS. Let's open that main.css. Let's just, okay, let's see. Remember that we gave all our images a class of image, so we can style them by saying we go. Let's just give them width of 100%. And a height 320 pixels. Yeah, I think that's all. And remember that we gave our button a class of btn, so we say .btn. So we want our button to have a border, say border radius of 5. This should do it. Okay, let's close and save it. Let's see. Did we save everything? This one is saved. This one is saved. Okay, everything is saved. Now, by the way, just to be sure and to avoid any errors, get this file and put it in the folder where you got the views.py file, because the views.py file is referring to this CSV file as well. So I also left another file in the same in the main directory. For some reason, this is the only thing that works for me. I don't know why. If I just have this file in one of these folders, it never works. But if I have it in both folders, it works properly. Okay, now we can run our model and see what it looks like. Python managed py run server. So it seems like we're having an error, and to avoid that error, it seems to be right here. So line 6, the last line right there. So we forgot to put a comma there. So like that, and we save it. Now we go back to run our model and see what it looks like. Python manage.py run server. And now, because we've defined a machine learning model up here, and it's running for 120 epochs, it's running on the server. So we can see here, so it's still running. It's going to take some time. So let's just be patient with it. So our model is ready. Now we can go back to our web app. Let's reload it. And now let's try to make a prediction. Now it's already predicted and say that you survived. Let's try to make a prediction. Let's say you are a male, you're in class 3, sex, so 1 is a male, age 25, number of siblings 0, number of parents, children 0, and a fare of let's say $7. Say predict, says you did not survive. So now let's try to see if we can survive. Let's say we are female, something. I'm in class 1. I'm a female, so 0. I'm something like 35 years old. I've got 1 spouse on board and 0 children, and I paid something like $80. You do predict, I say you survived. So that's it, guys, for this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you got any questions, leave them in the comment section below. I'm going to post all the data and all the code that I use in this video in my GitHub repository. See you in the next one.